And there you go, Brian.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our latest professional development webinar, this time starring James Rosseau. And we are very grateful to have him with us. Before we begin, I just want to take a moment and we can all center a little bit. Just take about 20 seconds that we can be a little bit present for this meeting and for the discussion that we're going to have because it promises to be a good one. Thank you. It As part of our events, as part of our webinars that we do, we like to start the discussion with just a little bit of a uh, background to the Religion Communicators Council. The Religion Communicators Council was founded in 1929, so we are coming up on our 100th anniversary in just a few years. And it's an association of communications professionals who work for and with a diverse group of faith-based organizations. Um, it is one of my favorite organizations that I work with because I feel like it is truly an interfaith organization. We have a wide variety of faith backgrounds, and we also have a wide variety of communications disciplines represented, including editors, writers, designers, photographers, videographers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, the mission of the RCC is really to develop and to provide opportunities for the RCC members to grow and to learn from one another, and do so in a faith-based environment, as we support one another and as we try to help one another to develop our skills and to be able to communicate more effectively one with another. Part of this is our monthly webinar series to enhance our professional development. And we are very, very excited to have with us today Mr. James Russo Sr. James's background is quite interesting. I was talking to him a little bit before we started, and in addition to, everything on his professional bio and on his communications bio, he also let it slip that he's a former DJ. He's truly a man of many talents, a jack of all trades, or a Renaissance man, I think would be a better way to phrase that. Professionally, um, James has worked with a number of different organizations. He's the CEO and founder of the Corelink solution, which is an organization focused on personal and leadership development. Prior to launching that, he was the chief commercial officer of Legal Shield. He was the Affinity Solutions brand. He launched the Affinity Solutions brand at Allstate Insurance Company, served as its president, excuse me. He led revenue growth through the creation of new distribution partnerships with several corporations, including United Airlines, Intercontinental Hotels, Bass Pro Shops. He was a senior VP at JP Morgan Chase Card Services. Um, he has an MBA from the School of Management, Kellogg School of Management, excuse me. And I'm reading through this professional background and I'm like, what does this have to do with faith? Well, he also, in addition to all of that, um, he with his, being the founder and the CEO of Corelink Solution, it's a nonprofit committed to empowering people to reach their potential. The organization delivers learning programs through that brand and faith-based media through the Holy Culture brand, including its reach to millions of listeners through Holy Culture Radio and Sirius XM Channel 140. Um, and so he really brings the professional and kind of like the for-profit sector, and he merges it with the faith-based sector. And we're really excited to learn from him and to hear how he combines those two worlds and to really improve our own skills. I think that's all I'll say in terms of introduction. And so, James, I'll hand it off to you.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. That man, I don't know about you guys. When you hear your bio, sometimes it makes you feel old. But think I'm here. So let me see. I'm going to share my screen. That's always the most difficult part of with the presentation. And just somebody give me a thumbs up when you can see it. Oh, I just sent a request to be able to share. Perfect. And
Should
I'm
be able to
gonna.
now.
Okay, awesome. All right. Are you getting the full screen presentation? Okay. All right, let me get this back here. Perfect. All right. So, yeah, what I wanted to talk to you about today, and thank you, Jenny and Ryan, for the warm introduction and welcoming me to this, is really how we bridge the gap and use Christian hip hop to reach the disconnected. You'll hear me talk about this throughout, but our youth are very much disconnected from faith. And no matter where I think you sit, I think most of us would be in agreement that faith has been a foundational part to many of our journeys. And how do we make sure that the youth and such that we are encountering today don't forfeit that opportunity? How do we bring them into faith and introduce it? So that's what I'll talk about in large part. I'll share some of my story along the way. As I share with Ryan and Jenny, I'm a kid who grew up in Philadelphia, North Philly to be specific, always wanted to do music, was involved in music and then kind of stumbled into a corporate career, and all the while in my corporate career was always doing music in some form, right? Daytime, nighttime, weekend time, whatever, and just kept both things running. And then after a number of years in my corporate career, really felt God's calling to kind of go back to which forth thou come from, right? And I'd done many of mentorships and sponsorships of people in corporate environments, helping establish leadership councils and frameworks, diversity councils and frameworks. I really felt the Lord calling me to, well, that's great. You've done some great stuff here. Now go back and try to help people in a different way, in a broader way, and use these experiences to do that, right? And that's one of the things I think about often when I'm bumping into people. There's sometimes almost this as we almost like we walk through a turnstile and we leave the corporate and professional experience behind us, and now we're going to do ministry or faith work. And we actually, what I've found is you need everything you were using there, here, in terms of the discipline, the structure, the approach, execution, processes, all those things, right? Because oftentimes in the faith space, we don't have those same resources. So bringing the what you learned to the space can be tremendously helpful. So let me get going, and please, as I talk through this, please jump in with questions. Much prefer an interactive conversation as we go through it. So to get started with, let me just start here. Christian hip hop is much more than music; it's ministry. If you take nothing else away from this, it may look like hip hop in its form. Sonically, it may sound like it, but the artists that we're talking about and those involved in Christian hip hop, it is a form of ministry. It is a tool in the tool belt, to be sure. It is, if you're a person who thinks about concentric circles of ministry, some call it outer court, inner court, some will say the holy of holies. Think of it as a strong outer court way to introduce the faith conversation to people. The second thing is, if you take nothing, these are three things. If you take nothing else away from this presentation, please take these three things. The second thing is we're losing a generation. You'll hear me talk about this later, but Gen Z say only 4% of them are actually involved in any kind of faith. 4%, right? That's a astronomically horrible number, right? And so unless we meet them where they are, we will probably continue to lose this generation. And all the data, pick a data source, Barna, any of the wonderful foundations that do data, the data corroborates itself again and again. And then the third thing is, obviously I'm biased to saying this, but I will say it. CHH is, to me, Christian hip hop, one of the most culturally relevant and spiritually potent ways to do it. And cultural relevance is probably what I'd underscore long. Of course, we're spiritually potent, and we'll talk about the whys, and feel free to again ask questions as we go. Just like a primer on hip hop's influence, I think that's a good place to start. It's the most consumed genre today. It has been the last 6 years running in terms of what people stream. Hip hop is at the top of the chart with 26 to 28% over the last 6 years. And if you think about where hip hop started, Most of it would be a passing fad. When people heard Run DMC and Curtis Blow and all those artists back in the day, oh, it's a fad, it'll blow over, right? And here we are today, and I dare you to try to find a TV commercial break that does not have some aura of hip hop in it. Whether it's what they're saying, whether it's the music playing in the background, whether it's the dancing, hip hop is become pervasive. It influences fashion, language, and social values. And I think the third one is the one to really talk about social values. It is pervasive in that way. 51% of Gen Z say music is their primary emotional outlet. It's where I turn to. I live on my phone. I mean, most of us have children or teenagers, whether they're our direct children or folks we're around, but like if they don't have their device, there's almost a meltdown of some sort, right? And while on that device, their consumption is largely hip hop music, videos, etc. And it's seen as authentic, bold, and trustworthy, particularly to youth, right? And so when you ask them where they're getting their information from, artists and those in hip hop culture for them are the who are for us, Peter Jennings, our Tom Brokaw's, etc. That's the hip hop artist and those in hip hop culture for them. That's who they represent. The problem statement, and this is the things we mull over in terms of how we think about it. Again, 45% of youth ages 13 and 17 feel persistently sad or hopeless. If you look at data from the Medical Association, from gosh, I can't think of the name right now, but who compiles all the health data and whatnot, they have not seen some of these things for a while, and they've gotten dramatically worse, obviously, since the pandemic, right? Isolation and other things such as that accelerated some of these problems. But if you look at the mental health statistics, 18s die by suicide each day. 30% don't feel connected to any adult they can trust. And so where do they go for information? Again, only 4% of Gen Z has a biblical worldview. And this one is the one that I think bowls me over every time I see it. Many are discipled by culture more than by faith communities. So not only getting information from, but being walked through their life's journey by culture. What does culture dictate? What's happening on quote unquote on the street or the social streets, social media streets, right? And the consumption speaks for itself. 4.8 hours a day on social media for most in this generation. So why Christian hip hop? It's not a genre, but a mission. Same art form, but a redeemed message. If you saw it from a distance, you may not know what's happening, but as you get close and get beyond the rhythm, the beats, and the thump, and listen to the words, you'll say, wow, there's something different there. This person is talking about an experience and a faith encounter. They're talking about sins they're dealing with, have dealt with, but how to come out of them. They're talking about hopelessness, but where the ultimate hope is, right? And so on and so forth. Christ-centered lyrics, faith-based storytelling, real-world relevance. And one of the reasons I highlight the real-world relevance is, and this is no disrespect to any other genre, I've always found hip hop to be one of the most confronting genres that has ever existed, right? When I listen, and I listen to a wide variety of music, right? But a lot of times the music can, first of all, if you've ever done any psychological study on music, music is profound in terms of its impact on where it takes your brain and how it makes you feel and the immediate sense of the immediate sense of changing emotions based on the song. One of the things about a lot of Christian songs is they speak from a place of already having won, have the victory, have done it, it's over, Jesus has redeemed. Hip hop tends to talk about the muck and the mire, get to the end point, but want to acknowledge like what is it like to walk through those kind of streets, right? And the lesser nice parts of New York or Philadelphia and so on and so forth. What's it like to be homeless? What's it like to not ever have known your father and those different things? And then get to the ultimate message of, well, you know what? My father is in heaven, my father's taking care of me. But to acknowledge the real world piece pulls in the audience, right? And I think that's one of the things that's happened with hip hop some 20 something years ago, and why certain groups like Run DMC and LL Cool J or Public Enemy Choose Your Flavor were so good. Same format as mainstream hip hop, but fueled by the gospel, of course. It bridges the gap. It speaks the cultural language authentically. We've had this, I've talked to a number of teachers and principals about hip hop, and I'll say, well, why should we allow Christian hip hop in here? And I say, let me give you an example. If we both flew to France and landed in France and had done no preparatory work in terms of learning how to speak French, and they did the same thing on their side, and we got in front of each other and we started talking, how effective is it going to be? And they go, yeah. And what will our instinct tell us to do? Talk louder, as if that works, right? Hey, I need you. Hey, right? Doesn't work. This speaks the language that the youth are used to speaking, and that's why it works so great. Uses beats, bars, testimonies to deliver truth, and head nodding beats with heart penetrating messages. And I'll give you an example of how it impacted me. I was 20, maybe 22, 23 years old. I was starting to climb the corporate ladder. I had a recording studio in Philadelphia at my brother-in-law's house. I was producing a lot of music for some up and coming artists in the Philadelphia area. I mean, I was working on things like Sprite commercials and doing all different kind of things. I had a guy come into my brother-in-law's store and he heard the music playing from downstairs. So he asked my brother-in-law, hey, can I go down and check this guy out? And he said, oh, Trig's down there working on some stuff. Let me ask him. So he asked me. I said, sure, let him come down. So the guy comes down, he listens to me doing music and whatnot. And as he leaves, he starts walking up the steps and he turns and says, man, you do some great stuff. It's a shame it's not for the Lord. And I said, I'm sorry, excuse me. What'd you say? He said, you do some great stuff. It's just a shame it's not for the Lord. And he walks out. Right? Now I had been in church, been saved, but I was still, doing my secular music, doing stuff, and the next day it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I felt like God was speaking to me. He's like, yeah, you may not be saying the words, but you're providing the soundtrack to things that not only are off the path of me, but actually are against me in many ways. How's that work? I immediately, within a day or two, hit every group I was working with, said, you got a week to finish your stuff. Like, I'm done. Can't do secular music anymore. I'm done. The message it's not right. It's hurting people. And that was what got me over kind of the bridge, if you will, right, to Christian hip hop. It was that clear to me when somebody interrupted me. And so the person who said this to me wound up being one of the members of one of the most impactful Christian hip hop groups called the Cross Movement. And so it's it's a story that like still touches me. um, so to reach in Christian hip hop, amazingly, so many people, a lot of people don't know how impactful Christian hip hop is right now. We used to say 10 years ago it's still making its way, it's still emerging. I would argue it's emerged. Hundreds of millions of streams annually. Uh, we have our station, which reaches 5 million plus on Sirius XM. NBA 2K gay games, NFL games, soccer games, you name it, it's in it. A lot of movies are putting it in their soundtracks, intros, outros, over 100 countries impacted. And if I just show you the top 10 artists, right? The top 10 artists reach 25 million monthly on Spotify. We've played over 1,700 artists in our 3 years since we've been on Sirius XM. And I can't even talk about the 17 years of our mobile app radio before that. But that just goes to show you how wide-reaching it's becoming. And let me pause. Any questions? Okay.
Trig, I dropped a question in the chat. Um, to me, it seems like there still remains a gap in some older folks accepting Christian hip hop as like,
Mm.
it's still a fad, or like,
Yeah.
why does that remain? Why can't we get over that?
I think, well, it's a great question, Jenny, and we talk about it often. So the one thing that's interesting is if you look at those who are corralling some of the older populations, if you will, right? So let's call it the Gospel Music Association, which hosts the Dove Awards, and I'm now a board member there, so like I feel accountable to try to help bring more in. The Stellar Awards in Central City Productions, who manages that, and other ones. When they think about the older audience, their data would suggest that they still want to hear Marvin Sapp, CeCe Winans, people such as that, right? Our data says not necessarily so, right? Our data says even when some of them leave church on Sunday, they don't necessarily continue to listen to gospel music. They'll turn on sometimes the local hip hop channel, right? 55, 60-year olds. Like I know plenty that they know who the latest artists are, Lil Boozy, Drake, They're like, oh, did you hear Kendrick's last album? Oh my God, it's so good. And but in the Christian world, for some reason, we think they're not ready to hear Christian hip hop. So some of it, like many things, I think starts with the leadership.
Hey, I want to jump in there because when you said, I appreciate your question, Jenny, because, I'm in the older audience, potentially, older folks.
Potentially.
Yeah. So when you describe music as confronting, or I don't know if it's confronting or confrontational. Maybe I'm, using those two words. You use that word, right?
I did
Confronting.
use that word. Yeah.
Okay. And that stuck with me because there is a style, and I thought, gosh, confronting. I feel like oftentimes maybe confronting could be, what am I trying to say? The words, because there's a difference between the lyrics and the actual beat, or the way
Hmm.
the lyrics are delivered. And I've had a conversation with somebody the other day about, how you deliver a message is just as
Yes.
important as what the words are, because I could have it all right here and mean everything, but I just delivered it in a terrible package.
Right.
So I find it interesting. I guess I'm thinking, gosh, confronting means, maybe that means people are open to questions and conversations, and it starts
Mm,
those, I think that's a good thing. And maybe it's purposeful. But the other thing, I guess, for me, and I'm just going to say this because I feel like so much, maybe there's a difference between hip hop and what I'm thinking of, where to me, it almost is the way they deliver it feels
hmm
very like someone's almost yelling at me. I'm just going to
mm.
say it. Like sometimes, does that make any sense at all? Like the delivery just makes me think, I don't like that style. And, but the lyrics could probably be there. It could be the greatest thing ever. Am I
Yes.
alone in the way I'm saying that? Is that a potential hurdle for like an older audience?
I think there was a time maybe that it was that was the dominant music. Like if you think back to trying to think of an example we can all think of. Public Enemy, Ice
Yeah.
Cube, right? That where it was just you just felt. But
Yeah.
I I think now a lot of the music, hip hop and Christian hip hop, is so wide in terms of variety, right? You have some like that, but you have some that's so much more melodic when you hear it,
Right.
right? Almost I don't want to call them singing, but they're like a like rap chanting slash like they don't want to be called singers, right? So I never want to call them singers, but you know what I mean? In terms of the style and the delivery, it's everything. It's driving in your car rain music. It's anthemic music over here. It's storytelling music over here. It is literally Bible study over beat over here. There's so many variations that's one of the things I think is so appealing too.
Well, and so that makes me say I probably need to look, because one of the things too is about examples of artists, and you provided that. So I probably need to go and listen to some people and just expand my uh what do you call it? My library of things I listen to. So
Uh,
thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give you a link to our radio station playlist that's on Spotify.
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
make sure I drop that before I leave.
If you could drop that into chat, that'd be good. But I don't think necessarily this is all about us being converted to Christian hip hop and listening to Christian hip hop, but it's how can we use hip hop, how can we use music as a communications tool,
Right.
right? And so what some of those like overarching general principles are for all of us in whatever situation, right? Even if I don't like hip hop,
Right.
right? Because I don't like that style of music or whatever, doesn't mean
Right.
that I can't be thinking about it in terms of a communication effort.
I agree. I agree. And you tasting a sample is helpful, right? Because it will help you then share with others, be a little bit more conversing in it, right, with others. So yeah, the playlist I think will be helpful. Yep. So the state of Christian hip hop, artists are breaking more into the mainstream. So as of the last couple years, you see much more acceptance on mainstream shows like Sway in the Morning. I don't know if you ever heard of Sway, but he's at least a 2, 3 decade journalist in the hip hop space. Used to be on MTV, VH1, etc. Now he's a key figure on Sirius XM. Rolling Loud, which has historically been one of the largest hip hop festivals in the country, welcome some artists this year. On the Radar is a similar radio venture out of New York that welcomes typically secular artists, top billing secular artists, and has invited a lot of Christian hip hop artists, and so that's been wonderful. National tours. Lecrae is, I think, undisputedly still the number one artist in our genre. But Forrest Frank is there as well. Hovey, no big deal. These folks are filling out large stadiums and arenas, right, on tour, which I think says a lot when you can pack out a 10 plus thousand or 20,000 plus venue for an event. We've got our station, obviously, but dozens of FM, AM online stations around the country. Boost FM plays a lot of Christian hip hop along with other FM stations. Boost, I think, has 12 signals around the country, plus several other stations. And we've got well over 50 podcasts that are CHH related, talking about faith, culture, music, etc. And then the events and festivals are just multiplying. Like literally, Holy Smoke will happen next month. That's an all Christian hip hop festival. 5,000 people plus will be there. Glow Fest, Kingdom Choice Awards, which is the official Christian hip hop award shows, happens in Manhattan on September 20th. So if you're interested, let me know, and I'll make sure we get you a ticket. I think you'd enjoy it. Just kind of again, kind of checking it out, doing your research. Um, so that's kind of the state, if you will. Let's see. So what we're doing, in light of all that, one of the things we are trying to do as our next stop, if you will, is put together what we're calling a reconnect. And the whole idea is to get youth and those embracing hip hop culture reconnected with the church and the faith community. And that's us walking alongside churches. We'll bring in the artists, national and local artists, a mix of them, to really do three things during the course of a weekend. One, put on a great event Friday night. It's teaser, it's the bait, if you will. But at the end of the night, the artist will do something different as opposed to just, dropping a mic and going off stage. They'll actually stop after they do maybe an altar call, a light altar call, but they'll say, hey, you know what? You thank you guys for coming. You enjoyed the concerts. Awesome. You've watched me operate my passion and purpose for 45 minutes. That's great. How about we help you find yours? And I would just also just say that to people when you tell a young person, I'd like to work with you to help you find your passion and purpose. It's interesting the look in their eyes in that moment, right? It is a pace stopping question that goes. They usually go, okay, you're gonna help me find my thing? Yeah, I'm gonna help you find your thing. So those artists doing that, come back tomorrow. We're going to have some discussions, help you find your thing. And they literally will the next day doing seminars and discussions, walk them through kind of discovery, gifts, talents, passion, purpose, and help them document that and help them lay out a journey. And then the next part of the conversation is we want to help you find people to walk alongside you. So people will be in that room from that local church who are willing to be mentors and help these youth. And that's what we're going to be doing. So that's what we call the reconnect. It's going to be hands-on, an opportunity for folks to get, again, reconnected with churches. At one time, churches were the pillar of the community. They were the go-to place, certainly were for me and my youth and a lot of folks like me. It was a place you could go, a place you felt safe, a place you felt like you could grow and develop. And we want to help churches reestablish that connection. And our goals in doing so is, engage hundreds of youth through these immersive weekends. So we plan to do hopefully 10 in the first year. We're starting the fundraising season right now. We want to do 10 in the first year and have a few hundred at each event in metropolitan cities that we're picking now. The idea is they'll build self-esteem, create vision boards, create growth plans. And some of this, quite frankly, is from I'm an author as well. My book is called Success on Your Own Terms. Six Promises to Fight Your Passion, Ignite Your Career, and Create an Amazing Life. And what I did, and I learned when I released that book back in 2014, is talking in rooms with people. They were taking, copious notes. And I got with an instructional designer and we developed a workbook and turned the workbook into a course. And what I found is, in my book, probably the first 40% is just about that. How do you identify your gifts, talents, and passion and purpose? And getting people in rooms and having those discussions, I found like the energy is uncappable. People want to talk about it. They want to figure it out. But a lot of times they need a sense of hope and direction in figuring it out. This again, we're going to connect it to mentors, leaders, and communities, and underlying all this, right, is some emotional healing, spiritual renewal, and lasting transformation. One of the things we hear often is having a space to have these real conversations is everything to folks, right? It's like, how do I move on if I don't get a chance to unpack my stuff? And so, how is that? So it's one thing to give somebody a booklet and say, "Hey, do this work." But wait a minute, where's the space where I get to unpack, decompress, and start the healing process before I can get into that work? And they can't always articulate it that way, right? But that's what comes out in the conversations, and so that's why the mentoring piece, the community piece, is of utmost importance. So I talked about this. This is just a bit of a bit of a different framework. The only thing I would add to this page is that while we work with the churches, we're also going to businesses. And our pitch to businesses are, look, stronger churches mean stronger communities, mean stronger businesses. So if you allow or maybe let me just say it in a more positive way, if we strengthen the youth through churches and community, you strengthen your customer base. And for most businesses, they say, well, yes, yeah, yes, we want more people with disposable income who can buy our stuff. And, I'm a head and heart guy, so I'm going to approach you both ways, head and heart. If it takes the heady conversation to get you, that's fine with me. Please invest in us, creating a stronger youth population that is not only filled with faith, but also become good income earners that will help you and your businesses. So right now, that's a part of our campaign too. We're going to the faith-based community and we're going to the business community as well. And so my ask in kind of closing, and of course, I want to hang around for questions and talk as much as you'd like to, is, try to incorporate it in your ministry and outreach programs where it makes sense, community programs, etc. It's a tool to use. I'm not saying it's the tool, but it's certainly a tool. We've worked with a lot of organizations over the past to have it kind of as a soundtrack playing in the background sometimes. So, you'll have Friday night, what used to be Friday Night Youth Alive, whatever they call it now. It's like when they come in, they're all hype and they're going. That's fine. Just select what you're going to play in the background, right? Start setting the environment with it, right? Have a playlist running. Support, and I can't say this strongly enough, support artists as missionaries through prayer and funding. Many of these artists are literally doing this again as pure ministry. And so it's interesting. Sometimes we think about missionaries and sending people off, to leave the country or not. There's a like really good groundswell of yes, let's support this missionary to go out and do this work, right? Whether it's a soup kitchen, so on and so forth. But what about the people who are going out and touching our youth in a way no one else can? Most of these folks are doing it on their own dime, trying to figure out how to make it happen, how to make it work. So let's support them through prayer and funding. And certainly you can host events such as the Reconnect concerts and panels. And what I didn't add on the page, if nothing else, you can always be a mentor. We can't have enough mentors in our space, whether it's faith leadership is your thing, faith-based leadership, whether it's how to build a strong nonprofit, whether it's how to pick your thing, build a great P&L, whether it's how to do fundraising the right way. We have a lot of mentorship needs for the artists and others that labor in the space. And so if you feel so led to, those are some things I would ask you to consider. And that is my end of my formal presentation. But again, I'd love to answer any questions and such that you might have.
So I know that Wesley put a question in the chat,
Okay.
and then I have a question as well, but let's let Wesley go first.
Okay.
Okay, I actually had two questions. One was earlier. The first question was around like sort of related to faith, but other like lifestyle and sort of cultural elements that our artists sort of speaking to, you know, what did I list here? Food systems, health, all the sort of things that you were saying, like people are going to culture to guide them through life. And, if this is going to sort of like be a counterforce to that, are those things being integrated?
And before you answer, you might want to just stop sharing your screen now that the presentation's
Oh,
up.
okay. Okay. Thank you. And so, Wesley, just to understand, is your question how all the things are being integrated in the approach?
Yeah, and just, like, is it sort of like a like a full package, does are there elements of like, hey, like also like check out this restaurant that, is like holds our values and these
Got
other
it.
things.
I think I think we're trying to take approach of crawl, walk, run. So I think ultimately we love that. Like if you ask me for my list of ultimates, right? I would say one, I'd love Dan Cathy to be our best friend and make every Chick-fil-A a place people can go, right? I'd love Tyler Perry to say, I want to develop a series of, films that meet this culture's need. We'd love to have a lot of different venues like that. I think we're trying to start small here and see if we can gain some momentum, but we've got a list of, let's call it, partners that we love to be with us in this work.
Cool. And then I guess my second question is maybe kind of actually along that uh first question. Can you speak to how much or how little traditional churches and organizations have been like a part of this? Like, has it been like there's been money from traditional churches to do this kind of work, or has it been kind of like the opposite of that?
Mm,
Like we're actually doing this sort of in reaction to that not being there, and now that it's more mainstream and that it's more commercially viable, are has there been a shift in any way?
yeah. I honestly, Wesley, don't have enough data to speak to it, right? In that way, what I can say is, I can point to isolated stories of maybe an artist who grew up in said church and that church decided to support that artist, right? Or even a larger parachurch organization. But what I have not seen yet is a consistent, widespread funding pool come in to support the ecosystem, right? And that's one of the things, quite frankly, that I'm I'm starting to push for. Like I sit on the board of a VC, and one of the things I said to the founder of the VC is like, "Well, I'm just dreaming. What would it look like for us to be able to raise and create a fund to really support the ecosystem the right way, kind of top down? Right now, everything feels bottoms up, if that makes sense."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So regarding your weekends, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm just trying to think, is the do the kids come for the mentorship and the hip hop is the added bonus, or do they come for the hip hop and the mentorship is the added bonus? Like what is driving people to attend?
Yep.
And is there ever a sense of a bait and switch, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I liked this artist. I wanted to come and hear this artist. I didn't need all of this like mentorship and them trying to get their claws in me or whatever. Like,
Yeah. So so
how
so
are they build? How are
yeah.
how are you going about building it and attracting people and like how are you building that weekend in that regard? Um, that's my first question. I'll just stop there for now.
Okay, well, yeah, the hip hop is definitely the bait. That is what's heavily promoted, right? And bait and switch is, I think that's too strong a word. I would say it's the cells of, wait, there's more, right? Wait, there's more. And people aren't held hostage. They could certainly say, hey, I got what I came for. I don't need to hear your passion purpose thing. I'm not interested in learning from you, artist A, artist B, artist C. But hopefully it comes across as a value add. Having done these years ago, I would say I've never really heard the bait and switch reaction as opposed to maybe that feels corny, right? Or I don't need that, but not the bait and switch. Yeah. I'm sorry. It could be yes and type. That's exactly right. Yes and. Wait, there's more. Yeah, yes and. Yeah.
Well, I had written here, making the bridge from the hip hop to the real life mentorship. Like, what does that bridge look like? How do you try to pitch that? How do you like, do you get the artists themselves to say,
Mhm.
you know, there's more to life than whatever you're doing? Do you come with the assumption that they're troubled teens and that they need that more? Or like, how do you make that bridge to the next step?
Yeah, I think what I've seen work well, Ryan, is making the offer and then listening. So when you say I want to help you again find your passion and purpose, right? Is it a little assumptive that they haven't found it? Is it a little assumptive that they aren't already on a journey? Yeah, perhaps, but it usually seems to resonate, right? And say, I am a bit curious to see if I can do better, right? And actually, I think you're kind of cool. I kind of like what you did, or I already knew who you were, and I want to make sure I understand. So you're going to take time to show me that, like you're going to take time. Yeah, I'm going to be here tomorrow morning, right? Come in, get some donuts, whatever, sit down, let's talk. And the combination of some national artists who serve as a major draw and the local artists who will continue to be available and work with the church is a part of the magic as well, right? Because it's not then a warm handoff to a deacon, no disrespect to the deacons, right? But there's not a just a handoff. The one of the artists who was in the room and the part of the conversation then carries on being a part of that journey. And that's a part of the magic.
So I have a weird question. I grew up with Salt and Pepper and then kind of segued to DC Talk. So,
Yeah.
the Michael Tate thing, like shockwaves.
Yeah, yeah.
So, fair, not fair that, we've had preachers that have fallen. We've had now Michael Tate who has stumbled. But, do you foresee any, is that going to have repercussions in what you're doing? Or is that just, that's who we are. That's part of human nature. I mean, it is shocking when someone who's out there as a leader falls.
Yeah.
What do we do with that?
Yeah, I personally don't anticipate any repercussions. One of the things I love about, again, Christian hip hop, like, for example, we have a morning show called The Fix. They're on every day from six to 10, Monday through Friday. And one of the things they say in their social bio is we're flawed Christians, right? I love saying that openly is we are not perfect. We are striving to be like Christ.
Yeah.
We are not perfect. Now, obviously, what you're talking about here is a different gradient of issue.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things of not pretending who we are and
Yeah.
speaking openly about the challenges and whatnot is a part of, again, what's authentically appealing to the target demographic we're going after. They don't want fake. They don't want dressed up. They don't want polished. Have you ever noticed, like, for example, on social media, for them, the videos they don't watch are the ones that look overproduced?
Yeah, okay.
They
Yeah.
want the raw,
Yeah.
right? They want to feel like it was captured, quote unquote, in the moment. They
Okay.
don't want overproduced. They don't want sexy, and they certainly don't have any reverence for things like some of our generation do, hierarchy and all
Yeah.
those kind of things. So it's a long way of answering your question, but yeah, I don't think so.
Well, and certainly his letter and how he handled it and just bared his soul was inspirational.
I
So,
agree.
uh,
I agree. Kudos to him on that part.
as a
And
communicator, I thought, wow, he got this and did it the right way.
yeah, agreed. And you know what was good about it too? Well, not good about it, but what I thought he did well is uh, made sure to try to give his band the way forward too by saying this is all me, right? I hid this from even my band members and the closest people around me, so I fully own this. He took full accountability. Yeah.
So, oh, sorry, Melissa has her hand raised. I'll let Melissa go first.
I just want to say I love some of the language that you're using, and so reverence. They don't have reverence for the hierarchy, and I was thinking they do have reverence for the journey, and
Yes.
that's what
Yeah.
it says. Looks like I'm. Oh, sorry, it's going to lower my hand. Please forgive me. They do have reverence for the journey.
Yes.
I'm so struck by your use of the phrase muck and mire, and that what they need and want is healing, transformational healing,
Hmm.
to which I think, and that hasn't changed for millennia.
That's right.
And and so what I'm struck by also is the real need for a voice. All of social media,
Mm,
there are individual voices that say, "I have an answer, I have a complaint. Here's what you should do differently." La la la. And the beauty of song, music, hip hop is that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end.
mm,
And the end might not be the full transformational point, but the fact that I am with other humans who are on a journey. I do think there's tremendous reverence right now and need for transformation and for the journey. What does it mean to be on this road?
yeah.
I grew up with arena music, and so Kansas, Carry On Wayward Son, and
Mm,
all of their albums just rocked me and saved
Mm.
me and gave me language that I did not have in order to speak to the elders in my life to say, this song makes me feel like I can make it through another day, or this song makes me feel like I'm not alone. And the music that what you're talking about is accompanying people on the journey in one aspect. And I'm deeply moved by that. Pivoting just a touch, I in the chat I said that I've heard that CHH music is also similar to the early days of hip hop,
Mm.
where there was statements about, this is what's happening, it's bad, it's wrong, and here's what we're doing to manage it. And I was wondering if you had any observations on that, either point.
Yeah, no, there's some of that as well, and that's the point I was trying to mention in terms of I just think there's so many variants of storytelling and different type of storytelling. Some of it can be episodic, if that makes sense, right? What's happening, almost like somebody walking through episodes in their album of how they've progressed and are coming through. Some talking about I'm still stuck in this moment, dealing with this thing, but I'm surrendering myself, right, to Christ to get better at it, right, and to get through it. Some are just man, one of the things that is emerging is Christian R&B, if you will, right? So some have a more of a love song feeling to them, etc. And so, yes, to everything you said, I think there's all of it there.
So, can we take a step and broaden it out a little bit, right?
Sure.
Because not all of us are going to be CHH fans, and not all of us are actually actively striving to meet Generation Z, right?
Yep.
Or Gen Z. So, what would be some underlying principles that any of us could consider when it comes to tying, say, music to ministry to communications?
So one I would say, and thank you for making that point, because I tend to hyper focus on Gen Z, but the fact is this is cross generational, right? Like I encountered Run DMC when I was, I don't know, 10 years old or something like that, right? So I'm a hip hop head from then. I can reminisce about the moments and times in the songs. Like yesterday, I was watching a Chuck D interview, and it's like, oh my God, I remember the first time I got a Public Enemy album when I cut school to get it, and all those different things, right? But I can't digest everything I used to listen to back then, right? Even out in this for nostalgia's sake, I just can't. It just doesn't feel good to digest all of it. So the one thing I would say is, let's not limit it to Gen Z. Let's think about people who embrace and enjoy hip hop music and culture. And do they know an alternative exists? I would say start with that question. Do they even know an alternative exists? That you want that rhythm, you want that sound, you want that trunk rattle, whatever the case may be, but you may not want that content. And do you know there's alternative content? Does that make sense?
Do we have any more questions?
Yes. Could you say a little bit more about the mentoring that you do? I didn't quite understand. Does that mean that you have a podcast or there's a concert and then you say, come tomorrow and we'll talk a little bit more? I missed, I was
That's
taking
true.
avid notes and I don't
Yeah.
understand how that's connected. It sounds fantastic, but how
We've
does,
talked a lot about the music half, but not about the mentoring half.
Yeah, the mentoring part will be with the church and those local artists as we do each event. So the idea is to really establish the church. One of the things that can happen, and it's not no one means it to happen this way, is that people get excited at an event, then the event's over, and they have nothing to connect to. And so what we're trying to do is help the church have something for those people to connect to, right? Through the local artists that are going to be with them and the church team and staff that want to be a part of staying in the lives of those folks. And that's what will continually bring them back out. What are they coming out for? You know, youth will tell you, I don't need to come to church on Sunday. Worst case scenario, I'll stream it if I need to, right? Why do I need to come? We have to give them a reason to come and stay connected. Let me also, before I forget, put the playlist link in the chat.
Trig, some of us come from some older, very long established religions that are considered, pretty whatever, right?
Right.
You put your adjectives and adverbs around that, but then you say, okay, then here's hip hop. So how can you start to come more middle ground to reach out to that? Like I don't want to single out any one religion, but there's some that seems like it's such a broad
Yeah.
range. How do you even get any kind of togetherness there?
Yeah. I'm not sure I have a great answer to that. I want to be honest with you. I'm so Christian focused and hip hop. But the one thing I would say is similar to certain parts of the Bible, as an example, some things are given in parables, right? A lot of songs are more parable speak, dealing with cultural topics and whatnot. And unless you are a Christian, you may not even get the underlying scriptural references and stories and whatnot, right? They're speaking about culture and things happening right now, such as human trafficking, right? There's nothing unscriptural about it, yet at the same time, there's nothing blatantly in the song necessarily about human trafficking and trying to stop it, right? That would not be useful for any person of faith.
And then as far as the mentorship is concerned, do you have a curriculum that you work with? What is the process for helping them find that purpose?
Yeah, so we have a curriculum we use from the Success in Your Own Terms curriculum, and that we have at the Corelink solution. We'll use that in addition to helping making sure the artists have curriculum they're comfortable with, and that is the rub, right? We want the artists to be able to deliver something that they feel passionate about themselves, and so we'll start with our curriculum, which has 6 core tenets to it, and I can send you a link to that later. I don't have that accessible if you're interested, and then we'll work with the artists to make sure we're tailoring it in such a way they can deliver it comfortably, authentically.
I did, by the way, put the link to your book
Oh, thank you.
in the chat. There's a special with Audible subscription. You can get the audio version for $1.
Is that right? For $1?
Which doesn't help you much, James, but it
No wonder those checks keep getting smaller. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
but there's that. Any final questions for James?
Thank you, Melissa.
Yes,
If
please.
absolutely, Ryan, is it possible to get people's email addresses afterwards and I can follow up?
Yes, Jenny can contact you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And or if you want to put your email address in the chat,
Absolutely. I'll just do that too. Yeah.
and people can write that down and contact you
Just one.
sides as well.
Perfect.
And when will you know the 10 cities? You said that they're still kind of in flux. When are
Yeah,
you?
I would hope by the end of the summer.
Okay,
So our fundraising's going now for the next 30 days, and then once we conclude the fundraising, we'll determine the cities.
great, good. I'm not sure if Cincinnati is on the roster, but that'd be great.
Okay, we'll add it to the consideration list. Let's see.
But where Cincinnati is on the roster is, how's that for a segue? Is April 16th to 18th, 2026 is our next RCC annual convention. So for those who don't have that on your calendar already, be sure to mark your calendars for that, April 16th to 18th, 2026. All right.
All right.
And with that, James, we want to thank you very, very much for being with us today. It was fascinating discussion, fascinating work you do. And we wish you all the best in your continued efforts.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Look forward to talking with you all soon.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.
See you guys.